All right, let's get this started. Welcome to Speaker Idol Day 2, Round 2. Please silence your cell phones, or I will answer them for you. Explore everything PASS has to offer. I'm sure you've already seen this slide before. Sequel Saturday is a wonderful, wonderful thing, started about 11 years ago now. It is not always on Saturday, especially in Israel. So, session evaluations. These are important to do. Please do these. I'll take a sidebar for a second. I had some people give me some great feedback about the keynotes. And I can't stress enough to everybody in this room and everybody I can tell this to, you've got to give us the feedback and tell us that we did something right. Because if you like those keynotes, we can keep giving those keynotes, but only if we know that the people really appreciate the information you're getting on stage, okay? So please, evaluations are very important. Evaluations aren't just to tell us all the wrong things we're doing. We need to know when we've done things right. Okay, oops. I am clicking, clicky, yes. So how this works, 12 contestants in 3 preliminary rounds. I mentioned this yesterday. I recognize some new faces in class today. So this is how Idol works. We do 3 sessions during the week before we have the finals. There will be 4 contestants in each of those 3 sessions. That's the 12, 4 times 3. And there is 1 winner that advances from each of the preliminary rounds, and we advance 1 wild card from the runners-up. So yesterday we had a winner and a runner-up. That runner-up is still eligible to make it to the finals. The 4 finalists will compete in the final round on Friday, if I remember my timings right. The 3rd round is 11:15-ish tomorrow, I think. How about that? And the finals are 4:30? 3:30. Okay. I was close. I knew they were both tomorrow, so that worked. The overall winner is chosen live, and I guess that's different than, it's not, yeah, I mean. We don't wait till next week. No, we don't wait till next week. Just like you're gonna see tonight, they're gonna go out in the hall, they will say things about the contestants, and then they will come up with a winner. And if there's a tie, they will break their own tie. All right. Your prize, in case you didn't know it, bragging rights, fame, but no fortune, a guaranteed speaking slot at next year's PASS Summit. That might be the most important one, which is November 6th through 9th, 2018. Is that really it? Oh, sash, and a sash. Does the winner get a special sash? Do they get to keep their other one too? Oh, so the winner will have double sash. There you go. Our judges, starting on the right, the punctual Karen Lopez. Where's the microphone for you? Well, our left. There's always one. There you are. Thank you, sir. Starting with Karen, introduce yourself, pass the mic down.
No, but it's on.
Yeah.
Is it live? There we go. I'm Karen Lopez. I'm data chick. I say things funny because I live in Canada.
Project.
Nice process. I'm Joey D'Antoni. Much like Karen, I just got finished talking and kind of ran over here, so my throat hurts, so I'm going to be especially judgy today.
My name's Kendra Little, Kendra_Little. That's my middle name. I draw dinosaurs, and I like databases.
Mark Sims, and I help people make better decisions the second time.
Excellent.
Alan Hurt, not quite in love with SQL on Linux at the moment.
Shocking. Okay. So, thank you all for introducing yourselves. Let's get it started. I believe the next slides I have are the contestants' bios. So the contestants don't know the order yet. So I'll advance this slide. That person will then step forward and get set up while I say things about them. Are we ready? All right. Contestants. Javier Villegas. How close was I? Villegas. Hey, no, I don't need that help, okay? I can talk with him just fine. Villegas. And you are a DBA manager at Mediterranean Shipping Company. That just sounds wonderful. It sounds warm, sunny. I like that. Microsoft MVP of data platform, involved with Microsoft SQL Server since SQL Server 6.5. That means he is experienced. He is an MCP and an MCTS as well. He is a blogger, MSDM forums contributor. You know, that's the mixed bag there, forums. Yeah. Specialization in SQL Server administration, performance tuning, and high availability. Frequent speaker at .NET Conference, SQL Saturdays, past virtual groups in Spanish and in English. And where are you from, sir?
From Buenos Aires.
Okay, so are we starting the clock then? Because I don't think we mentioned the rules, right? Yeah, let me make sure I mention that. When you start speaking is when the clock starts, and I don't think I gave this warning yet.
Okay.
So don't do that to him yet. As soon as he started speaking, I'm like, oh, this is wrong. All right. So where are you from, since I asked anyway?
Can I?
Yeah.
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. All right. So what's that got to do with the Mediterranean?
I work kind of everywhere.
Oh, okay. I'm American, so I'm geographically challenged. You could tell me that Buenos Aires is on the Mediterranean, and I'm not sure I would know.
In the very south.
That is your microphone, sir. So the rules about the speaking is I didn't even mention the time. So you get 5 minutes to speak, and you manage your own time. We won't end it for you, but it's going to start when you start speaking. And yesterday's lesson learned was a really good way before you start speaking is test your microphone a little bit, and then just say, let's get started. And then we'll start the clock. Fair? All right. I'm going to get out of the way now, but I'm going to go right there and just watch you.
Okay.
Okay. And tweet about you.
Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Tom, for the introduction. My name is Javier, coming from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And today, we will be talking about SQL Server 2017 and the community-driven features, right? We all know that Microsoft is a new company now. They like to receive feedback from the community, from the data platform professionals. So these are the features that Microsoft received feedback from the Connect side and put it into the RTM product, right? SQL Server 2017. So these are some of the features that we will try to quickly cover today. Since SQL Server 2016, we all know that SQL Server support multiple data types, structured, unstructured, different programming language. T-SQL since forever, Python, R, also runs on-premise, cloud, hybrid environment. And we also know that now it runs on almost every platform. SQL Server 2017 runs in Windows Server and Windows 10 as usual, but it also runs in the major distribution of Linux and containers. Okay, these are some of the features that we're going to be talking about. A smart differential backup and a smart transaction log backup. What do we have here? Microsoft has introduced new DMBs and DMF with additional columns which provide us more feedback, right? So we can build our own intelligent backup solution. This is also huge for the third-party vendors, right? Select into on-file group, especially for a data warehouse when we have to cook and prepare intermediate data on a warehouse, we can now do a select into a particular file group. The file group can contain data files on very fast disk, right? So we can get our job done much faster. Transaction log monitoring and diagnostic. Since the first best practices, Microsoft tells us that we have to get the VLF, the virtual log files control. Now, with a DMF, we have this in a select statement, right? Before, we had to go and do DBCC, log info, and get all this stuff. Now, we have it all in a DMB. CPU information. Before, we had to go to different places to get information about our CPU, core, socket, etc. Now, in the MOSCC info, we have all in one, right? Cores, socket and core per socket, right? This is huge. Automatic plug correction. We all love and like Query Store from SQL Server 2016, right? Was a huge improvement, right? In where Query Store learns and collect all our query plans and the metrics, right? And then based on our manual intervention, we decide which one is the best plan to use. Now in SQL Server 2017, we have the feature automatic plan correction, which does all that for us, right? We turn on that feature, and it chooses the best plan and put it into execution. This is some of the example of how to do it. Index maintenance. For the ones that are DBA here, we know that this was always a pain, right? Long nights, weekends, and really, really painful. Now, in SQL Server 2017, we have this feature called Resumable Online Index Rebuild. What it does is allow us to start an online index rebuild and pause it. Yes, pause it. Something that I never think that it's going to happen before, right? This is one of my favorite features. Maybe it's not the one that was advertisement like, all the others, but this one is huge. Here are some examples of how to do it really quickly. And with that, I would like to thank you. Down there is my presentation, and you can download it with the code and all the examples. Thank you again.
All right. Well done, sir.
Thanks.
And we will start the judges, and since you have the microphone on that hands. Oh, you know what? I need paper. Where's paper? Is there a pad?
This has been sitting here for 2 days. I don't know whose it is. I didn't see any writing in it, so you could. All right.
Just want to go back to taking my notes, too.
Okay. So first of all, good job. You were under time, so kudos on the timing. Just really a couple of comments, because first of all, you had a lot of text. I mean, a lot of text. Generally, when especially in 5 minutes, nobody could read that. And on top of that, usually when you do slides, it's let me have a shorter number of text and bullet points, and then I'll talk more so people get the gist, but I sort of fill in the things. I'm sure some folks will say some of the other stuff, but the thing that I really kind of wished you had done was, I like the premise of your deck of, hey, these are things that because of Connect or community feedback got into the product, but then a couple times you said it's huge. There's 1 or 2 times you didn't give the reason why. But then you got to resumable online index rebuild, and you said it's one of your favorite features. I would have preferred that you maybe spent 5 minutes talking about that and why, and whether it's a real demo or shown just screenshots, just focused on that, because I think you did a great presentation, but I think if you just focused on 1 or maybe 2, it might have been just a touch tighter.
Yeah, so on the great walkthrough on all the features, 2 things. I didn't get how that tied back to the community-driven enhancements. Like that link wasn't really clear. And since I'm on the inside of the behemoth, maybe it's kind of a weird one there. But the other one was, for all the features, I think it would have been a lot more impactful and a lot easier on the eyes so that we could look there rather than looking at the screen to actually just show the syntax or show the feature or show the DMV or just show like, hey, look at this thing and then talk through it and leave the text in the speaker notes.
So thank you. I enjoyed the presentation. I liked your hand gestures a lot. You started out sort of opening your hands, and I felt sort of automatically included. You also had good pacing and steady speaking, and it was easy for me to pay attention. I also found the text distracting, and I think the text, it looked to me like it was from books online, and I do the speaker notes things too. If I'll take things like that, I'll put them in the notes section on the slide and then look through them before the talk and then kind of just put on the slide what I want to highlight or even just like a picture that I think is funny. If I am going to include text from books online, I like to make it clear that I like take a screenshot of it, make it obvious that it's not mine, that I didn't write it, and ideally put the URL, but I try to do that just for very impactful statement type things. But always cite the source if you're going to take someone else's text. Is the
In this case, it's my code.
Oh, it is your. Was it actually all your? Did you write those summaries of things? Well, it's very. It looks like a technical writer did it.
Actually, I was playing a lot with the features. So
Ah, okay, fantastic.
thanks.
Yeah, to echo what everyone else said, you did a fantastic job from a presentation perspective. Like Alan said, I would have liked to have seen you probably zoom in on one or two features and maybe tell a little bit more about how the connect process leads to changes being made in the product. But your delivery was absolutely fantastic. I would have liked to have seen a little bit better slides, but overall it was really good. Thank you.
So yeah, everything they said. Plus, I was really happy with your topic, your title. Like, I had never thought about doing a presentation on features that came from the community and why. So I kind of wish you had focused more on, that part of the story. And I know that you were really limited time. It was good that you managed your time that way. I also give you, so while I agree with everyone that your slides were too verbose, they were very readable text-wise. And so everyone should applaud that, because that's always very thing. I'll also give you bonus points for saying premises, also an important thing for me. You did sort of pace a lot in a way that wasn't sort of part of being dynamic, and it's a nerves thing usually. I do it as well. I try not to. I get it, but I have to point that out. So it's okay to move, but you can't pace. And especially on these things that make noise as you pace, right? So that can be distracting or get in the way. You had one graphic that didn't have an attribution, so unless it's your graphic, and even then you can have an attribution. And I kind of disagree, shockingly, that instead of just focusing on one and two things, because I love this community-driven features, is that I'd hope that you'd be able to take all the things you say and be able to describe what it was in one sentence, even if it's a DMV. It's like, hey, we need to manage cores and CPUs, and now we can get that information from this specific place in SQL Server in a DMV, right? You also had some TLAs, some 3 or 4 or 10-letter acronyms that you didn't have time to define, and that's always an issue. I know. But some of them were just in your text that you would now refactor to not have all that text, and so that problem probably go away. But other than that, thank you very much. It was a great topic.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'll just take that. And I just want you to know that you're in first place. Okay. Next, Eric Peterson. Eric, there he is. Eric is from Atlanta, and he likes SQL Server and walks on the beach. Here you go. You're going to need this. He has 30 years database experience with SQL Server, DB2, Oracle, and the artist formerly known as Sybase. He is a developer from COBOL to C#. What does that even mean? Don't say it. Don't talk. See, he's smart. And ODBC beta team. I don't even know what that is. And like I mentioned, he does live in Atlanta. So you want to use this one? Yep. You need the mouse? There you go. Would you like your water? All right, I'll just put it on top of this laptop. I'm sure that won't be a problem. So that's not going to work. I'm just going to help you out here. Yeah. Now, I think you're good to go. I will just exit the stage and watch you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. If I make it to the finals, you can always say older than dirt, knows everything, and lives in Atlanta, so says y'all a lot. All right. What I'm going to talk about today is lost functions of SQL Server, where to find them and how to use them. All right. Now, with this, I work for a company that does utility billing. And with utility billing, we need to compare this month to last month. My users were going out and creating all sorts of temp tables, comparing together with these complicated joins. So I mentioned to them, why not use Windows functions? All right? I get a blank look on their faces. All right? All right. Now, I'm using this because we have a smart guy here, right? And my developers are smart as well, and they're saying, what the heck are Windows functions? All right? They might be using other terms as well. The term I like to say is, what the function? All right? The reason no one uses these functions is it's because of the name. Now, over the years, since this has come out, Microsoft has figured this out as well. You go out and you search for Windows functions in the current release, and there's absolutely no reference to them. It's like they've disappeared. You know, if they've been taken away by aliens or what? No, they're still out there, but you can't find them. All right? And what I propose is really saying a better name for Windows functions is result set functions. Result set functions allow you to run queries that go against the result set. So for my users, I can compare this month's bill to last month's bill with one single query, and it helps them develop. Now, it allows you to summarize for ranking and statistical functions, aggregates and subtotals, and analytics for comparison. By the way, if you go out there and you look in current Microsoft documentation, ranking, aggregates, and analytics are the areas you find these functions now. So I'm going to give you some example of some of these functions since nobody really uses them. I'm going to use a really basic query type here and show you how to do this. My favorite is one called row number. All right? Because what you do is it goes out there and it puts a row number on everything. So in the past, I'd take a spreadsheet and I would go in and put numbers on it. Now, the nice thing is you can do it in either direction. Next one is ranking. And it just ranks values going through. Notice that they go in order of the balance that's out there. Minimum. Minimum is going to give you the minimum number encountered through the result set. Maximum does the same thing, but watch how this works. When it hits 76 and 90, it increases the value. Sum I use all the time. In fact, I would take things and throw it into Excel and do this, where this goes right away. Lag. The analytic functions are the number one thing that we use in my company because we need to look at past bills and previous bills to go through and look and see what's out there. There's also lead, which shows you the next value. If you look at the balance column, they all compare. Now, what's the magic to make these functions work? It's the over clause. You can use things like min and max and other things, but if you want it to work on result set, you use the over clause. In this example, you say lead, the lead function. You're going on the balance column, and you say order over by name. So your sort is different than what your balance column is, and you can see how that works. Very simple. Now, you're saying, how do I do all of this myself? Well, I have an example here, and there are things in here that are hard to read, ton of things, very small, and but I have a solution for that. And if you were to run this thing, it gets even smaller. All right, I know this is really tough to do. And I know what you're saying. This is amazing. How can I do this Jedi mind control when I get back to my own place? All right, you go out to whatthefunction.org, and right there is all the code you need. And even better, there's table creates and the statements to put data in so you can run everything and look at it in your own shop. Now, see, in summary here, the window functions are not lost. Microsoft just renamed them. All right? My developers are happy because they can do things with less code. And really, we've got a recap here. So what does what the function mean? Or WTF is what the function. A better name is result set functions. The magic that makes result set functions work is the over clause. And where can I get this extraordinary code? Whatthefunction.org. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eric. And judges, Karen.
Yeah, that's me. So that website, that URL, is it yours?
It is mine.
Okay, so perfect. It's good that you did that. That's total violation of the past rules.
It has no advertising.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I don't agree with that rule, by the way, because you're providing a resource and you're not trying to sell people things, but that's between me and Pass. So that is something to be aware of when you speak, that different events have different acceptable rules for even mentioning names of properties or something that you own or have as part of your job, right?
Very good.
So there's that. Great use of humor. Really loved it. It was snarky, and I've heard that I tend to be that way. And great use of animations to show the things that you were doing. It was a little bit fast for me to comprehend what you were saying because numbers, and I'm more about text, I guess. But great use of animations there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought your slides were excellent. I really, really liked the animations. I thought that was a cool way to do a demo without doing a demo. And it conveyed, especially given the topic, it conveyed the message very well. One warning, and I didn't notice it, but always take off your credential. It didn't affect you. I'd also not put my mic up that high. I'd put it a little lower. Neither of those affected anything. It's just kind of a heads up.
Yeah, thank you for speaking. I love windowing functions. I'll probably always call them windowing functions. So the mic placement, I did notice it. You were doing at one point a lot of looking back and forth, and when you have the mic high up, the sound goes loud. It changes. It's weird. You were looking a lot at the screens to see where it was, and then later you were looking a lot at the laptop to figure out where it was. And I was like, why is he doing that? And I think it was the complexity of the slides, where are they now type stuff that was going on. If you have to choose, simplify the slides so you can look at the audience and be telling the story, because that makes more of a difference to us. Verbally, you have a tendency to say all right repeatedly. I have another word I say so a lot. So we all have our words that we have to kind of work on and try to notice when we say them and edit them out. And that's the one for you. If you can start trying to catch when you say all right, it's just a little distracting when you hear it multiple times. All right.
So,
Yeah, that's my word.
I had to borrow it. Your word? Yeah. Okay. So I really like the animations. I would have liked to have seen the actual query in its full form for even just the individual commands starting off, just so I could see in context, oh, that's a real query with some faked up results. The other thing is, you said we changed the name. What did we change the name to?
Well, it didn't really change.
It just disappeared.
They just disappeared. There's
Okay.
no references. If you go search for Windows functions, you can't find it.
But you put on your slide that we changed the name.
Well, they changed, if you look it up,
Yep.
you look at ranking,
Yep.
analytics, functions now.
Yep.
So they sort of broke it up, changed it, but I'll take that one.
Okay, well, just more of the, if you're going to say we changed it, you should have a trail of breadcrumbs to say, it's all over the place, you're screwed.
Okay.
Maybe too subtly for me.
Okay.
Oh, he was a little sorry.
Yeah, see,
Just making sure.
yeah, I was going to cover that.
How far was I over? My timer blanked
About
out.
10 or 15 seconds. Yeah, I count 15, but
All right.
so you wouldn't have to do much to get back under, assuming you went on. There was one slide at the very beginning that you just clicked right over. It was like an agenda slide or something. And I wasn't sure what that was. And I get you're time constrained, but when people do things like that, I wonder what they're trying to hide.
You want to see that slide?
Yeah, because I know, look, when I've done this enough that sometimes when I'm running late, I just say, hey, you can read these slides later. Just give me a hint of, you can read this later. It's not that important. But you just clicked right by it, and I'm like, what's on that slide? There's one slide, again, Alan's being pedantic. You had the words comparison to other, and between comparison and to, there were 2 spaces.
Ooh.
Hey, I caught it. I did like the fact that despite what Karen said, and I agree with her that from a pass standpoint it would be a violation. I did like the fact that you had a call to action, because not everybody always has some kind of call to action at the end. That's something. But I thought your pacing was pretty good. I did also notice kind of what Kendra pointed out, because of where your mic placement. Sometimes when you even turned your head, it's almost like a phasing that was happening. So you just have to be always aware where your microphone is. Like, I know my voice can sometimes be boomy, so they were like, well, move it up. I'm like, no, trust me, you don't want it this high. So you have to be aware of your voice in relation to how microphones usually are. But all in all, like I said, I love the humor. Thought your pacing was pretty good, even though you went over a little. The demo part, as everybody said, I like the fact that you could do a demo without, and it was actually made sense without having to do an actual demo. But little things you'd have to tighten up. Good job.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, sir. And let's see who's next. Ed Watson, Ambassador of Mayhem at Innovative Architects. I like that title. You are an MVP since 2014. He's an avid scuba diver, and aren't you Sequel Gator? Yes, you are. He is from Florida, which makes sense for the scuba, I guess.
Ask him about his football coach.
I won't ask him a thing about football because then he'd be talking about Florida, and nobody wants to hear that. So attends more concerts than he should. He can distinguish a good bourbon. Excellent, sir. Excellent. He discusses the finer points of gourmet bacon. Oh, you are my favorite now. And you sing karaoke badly. I think karaoke actually translates into bad singing, so I guess you're on point there. Are you about ready? Yeah, you need the microphone. All right. I will step to the side then, good sir.
Are we good? Good afternoon and welcome. Today we're going to discuss a tool that should be in every data professional's arsenal. Unfortunately, we don't have time for a proper demonstration, but hopefully you will try it out for yourself once we are done. Now, in our day-to-day troubleshooting, most of us look at DMVs, we look at execution plans, we dig through logs, we use Profiler, even though it's deprecated, and some of us even try to use extended events. But sometimes these tools just do not provide us with the insight that we need. We really need a PAL to help us out. Our PAL is PAL, or Performance Analysis of Logs, which is a great free tool that was written by some amazing people at Microsoft. But keep in mind that it's not supported by Microsoft directly, but by the authors themselves. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to highlight some of the advantages of using PAL. I would say first that it uses Perfmon, which is also free and is already installed on your server. Also, PAL provides exhaustively detailed reports with lots of pretty pictures. And we all know that pictures are the only things that our bosses really understand when we say there's a problem. Now, I say they're exhaustive because PAL details everything happening every minute of the day on every aspect of the server. And then it aggregates that data and processes it into usable results. Another advantage is that the threshold files, which are straightforward XML files used in the Perfmon data collection, can be edited and customized to just the counters that you think are important. For example, let's say you're not running availability groups. You could take those out, remove them right from the collection. That's going to save you some time when we're processing that into a report. In addition, once you run this a few times, you'll get a feel for which counters are important to you, which ones are not. And you can remove those out of your file to make the processing a little bit quicker. Now we say the positives, so let's discuss the negatives. I mentioned before exhaustively detailed reports. This tool will generate literally 1,000 pages of data. You have to go through that line by line, page by page. It is exhaustive. Also, keep in mind that every counter you use generates more data in the log file and will also add to the amount of time that it takes to process that into the 1,000 some odd page report. I once thought I could run this collection for like a week because I had a client that they had different processes on different nights and they wanted to see how those were impacting their server. Well, after that week of collection, I kicked off the report and day 1 passed by, day 2 passed by, 5 days went by and it still was not done. So in hindsight, you really don't need that much data. It just will not process it. Personally, I like to run it for about a day, and then that collection can generally take just a couple of hours. So since we didn't do a demo, I wanted to show you real quick what the start of the report looks like. We can see there's links at the top. First, we have chronological order, items that actually happened during the day. And then we go down to the aggregations and the charts. So here's a sample chart. As we see, there's yellow and red because red is bad, fire bad. So I hope this short introduction inspires you to download PAL and add it to your tool bag. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ed. Judges, we start with Alan.
So you were under time, which was good. You engaged the audience more as the talk went on, but early on you were like looking at your laptop almost like you were reading a script. I couldn't tell if you were or not, but it kind of seemed that way a little bit, and then you sort of settled in and then you kind of loosened up a little bit. So I think you kind of have to be cognizant of things like that. The one thing that confused me was on your one slide, your use of color. Forget the one that used red. Just don't use red for text. The bullet points went blue, black, black, blue, black, blue. Did the blue mean anything? Because the
blue were the ones that I was highlighting.
Okay, because that didn't come out because it was random, like what it was. Like you could have said, like these are the important ones. Like called out that why they were. Like I've put the ones in blue that I think you should care about more. And it was a light blue, so the thing you have to think about in a room like this, these are actually fairly good projectors and screens, but in some rooms that have really washed out projectors and stuff, light blue text on white background might just look. So if you're going to make it pop or be different, try and pick a color that you know is going to work in even bad rooms. The only other thing I'd add is there's one slide also where you had something called threshold files. Is that a proper noun, or is that, because again, I don't know the feature. I know some people use mixed case. If it's not, just make sure it matches whatever somebody's going to go look at the documentation. So.
Okay. Thanks for walking us through. I actually hadn't used that thing in a few years. Quick question. What I didn't get out was where I would be looking at using PAL and how it fits in the grand scheme of things. Like, what I didn't have was framed of, well, I already have a bunch of things in my toolbox. Why would I go get another thing? And what I'd really like to have seen is this canonical case of, let me tell you about a thing where this really kind of saved my day, as well as, I know because I just went and looked at the source code how it works, but what I didn't get a sense is this is a tool that I run on my server. Does it just configure a data collection agent that I then pull off and run locally? Like, well, basically, if I use this, will it break prod or not? especially for folks, well, it's the first question I ask about any live monitoring
Right.
tool. Like, will it do no harm? And just kind of talk about just frame up, this is what you're getting yourself into, beyond just it doesn't work on this particular configuration. But otherwise, thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for speaking. I really enjoyed your pacing. You have a really good way of not rushing, and I'm envious of that because I always want to go fast, especially at the beginning, and you did not fall for that. One thing about this slide that's on the screen right here, when I first looked at this slide, see how it says biography point 1, 2, and 3? When I was filling this out for myself, I was like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to actually change, that's a placeholder. So it looks a little unfinished the way it is, so just fix that slide. I agreed about wanting the payoff story. So we had you did great eye contact in the story of, I had this client where I ran it for a long time and then it took a long time to process.
Right.
I wanted a similar story about, okay, and here's here's this time it helped me and how it really paid off in this great way for, or that helps sell it, like you were saying as well.
Great.
Yeah, overall, I thought you were good. Little bit of why'd you have to switch to the VGA? I'm just curious. I've been having AV problems all week here, so it's more I want to know.
Well, when I came in before, I hooked right up to the VGA, everything worked.
Okay.
And then when I came up here I couldn't find the VGA cord, so I tried the HDMI.
Yeah, because so right now, and I'm not sure what happened with PowerPoint, but right now you're projecting full screen, but...
This is the other one.
Okay.
Switch back.
Yeah, you weren't projecting, it wasn't filling the screen. But overall, your talk was good. I would, like everybody else said, I would have liked a little bit more of a story there, but I mean, in terms of illustrating PAL. I like the way you showed the slides at the end. The other thing I think that would have been a cool demo without doing a demo was when you talked about the response file, showing a response file, even if you just had it as an animation pop up in your PowerPoint. And I thought you hit a pretty good depth technically with that.
So you did one thing that so far no one else has done, is that instead of trying to talk really fast in order to fit into 5 minutes, you had a very calm, just like you were explaining something to someone sitting there. It might have been too calm. So it's this fine balance between having a dynamic range when you talk and versus just being, it was very calm. I want you to do my meditation tapes. It was very great. But probably you could pick it up without going faster, just by having more, different intonation and emphasis on things and everything. So that would probably help a little bit. I would have liked to have seen more not demo, but more slides of what this was going to give me, because I've never used this. So that would have been great. You had great stage presence. You weren't pacing. You didn't look nervous. You didn't sound nervous. That's all really good. And I just wanted to mention on Alan's behalf, especially even from the last thing, but some professional speaking things demand that you not have 2 spaces or that you not have a period at the end of some of your bullet points, and you didn't have any of these problems that I saw, but that there are some presentation arrangements where you actually have to do that type of scrutiny of your slides. Having said all that, and I think I said this yesterday in one of them, just because you're required to use a template doesn't mean that you must follow poor font or color choices. Yeah, and you're not required to use the template. But in general, this is the normal thing. I get templates all the time. And and this isn't really yours, this is the bio that they made you provide, but like that gray and the light blue, I'd be making them all black. The gray on the gray, I'd be higher contrast and everything. So just something to point out with slides in general, and your slides were great. They were very readable, and people should applaud that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. All right, no surprise as to who's next and last. Dennis Torres, welcome. He is the CEO of Buffalo Info. It is a consulting and training company in Brazil, which apparently is on the Mediterranean. I learned that earlier today. Oh, no, Argentina is. I think they're near each other. 20 years experience. He works with SQL Server since version 6.5. Oh, you want the VGA? Sure, go for it. And you're a specialist in .NET and C# since they were created. Wow. In other words, he's experienced. And he just stole my VGA.
Start the clock. Welcome and thank you for attending my presentation. My name is Dennis. It will be a 100-level presentation about allowing nulls in unique fields. Let me tell a story about the most difficult discount I ever got. Once upon a time, I was in a bookstore when I heard some books calling for me. That I had to got that book. Please raise your hand. Who has ever got attracted by some new books like this? That's it. You know what I'm talking about. So I got the books. I went to the cashier to pay for the books. And the cashier told me, oh, I can give you a 10% discount if you sign up for our mailing. So we can send tons of newsletters to you. Would you like to sign up? It seems fair. I would like to. Please fill this form for me. It has only 50 items. Okay. I filled the form, returned the form to her, but she complained. Oh, you didn't fill the library card ID. Our supermaster machine learning algorithm needs the library card ID to identify all the books you buy during your entire life. Oh, it's interesting, but I don't have a library card ID. While I was discussing with her, a young guy with shaggy hair and beard who was working nearby us approached and introduced himself. Hi, my name is John. I'm the IT manager, database administrator, and fix-it guy here in the bookshop. I think I can explain what's happening. When I created the customers table inside our SQL Server database, I also created a unique constraint over the library card ID. We can't afford to duplicate values inside the library card ID. However, the unique constraint not only keeps the uniqueness of the valid library card IDs, but also avoids more than a single record with no library card ID. In fact, we already have a record with a null library card ID. It's a client called John Doe. I use this record for tests on production. I can't allow anyone else with a null library card ID. I may have a solution for you, John. You could use a workaround. Instead of creating a unique constraint, you could create a unique filtered index, excluding from the index all the records with null library card IDs. The filtered index will keep the uniqueness of the library card IDs, while the table will allow several records with null library card IDs. His eyes were shining, and I started a demonstration for him on my personal laptop. Looking to that screen. So I created a customers table without any constraint, a unique filtered index, excluding from the index all the null library card IDs. After that, I inserted 4 records, 2 of them with null library card IDs. Everything worked well. And the table got a total of 4 records two of them with null library card IDs. Finally, I inserted a record with a duplicate library card ID. And the record was refused by the filtered index. So, problem solved. He was amazed by this solution. I thought I would earn a free book for this, but it didn't happen. But I got the discount. Thank you very much.
Sir, well done. Okay, so judges be judgy.
That's
Start with
me.
Karen.
So thank you for talking about nulls. No one else is going to say that.
That's right.
You had good, clear text. You had attribution of graphics. Either you're paying attention or you're a natural, probably both. Bravo for doing a demo in a 5-minute talk, and one that was very effective because you showed me what you're going to show me first, and then you demoed it, so that made it easier to follow. But you didn't maximize your demo window, and so it was still a small window, and therefore your fonts were smaller than they needed to be.
Yeah, this is the technical problem.
Okay.
Note that maximizing, I would love the window.
Okay, so it's good to know that. So then, in theory, the way you go around that is now you increase the font sizes for this demonstration. I could read it, but I wondered if you were in a big room. He did zoom at the end, but you always want to maximize readability and then zoom. Like always, make it go that. So I did notice you zoomed it.
Thank you.
And that was really good. Good sense of humor.
Yeah, nice recovery from like having to deal with a pretty bad technical issue. I like the way you just used the floor because you were able to kind of look at your slides without. It's easier from the floor to do that than from the podium. It would have looked a lot worse, and I thought you did a good job of recovering that way. Just to add to what Karen said, and just a tip for everybody in the room, SQL Server Management Studio 17 has a feature called Present On that will automatically put everything into big fonts, like the entire solution. It's not perfect, but it is not perfect. And Present Off is terrible because it doesn't exist.
It doesn't. There's a way to turn it off, but it's not perfect.
But it's not Present Off. Yeah, so you can use that. But zooming was good, and I like the way you drew when you zoomed to highlight the results.
Thanks for speaking. I loved the library card story. As soon as you got into that, I was all for it and was all there. And I think it worked really well. It connected. It gave us such a great narrative. One thing I do for every presentation, especially at a big conference like this, but even for little ones, is I take screenshots of all my demos. It may take me a couple of hours to work through them and make them, but basically what I'm doing them for is so that if I have some issue so that I can't do the demo or I have to present from that laptop, I can plug in the USB and I have something else that can work. It's totally worth the time. I think you did handle what you had to work with really well. Like, that is not an easy thing to do, but it's worth the time to have that plan B so that you don't have to. You can switch to the other laptop. It's so great that they're provided here.
Yeah, you're only one network hiccup away from a live demo on a remote system going kaboom, so luckily that didn't happen. I think you did such a great job of selling the story. I almost have to ask, did that actually happen? because you told the story. Don't answer it, but you told it with conviction. And I thought it was just a really great way to introduce what could be a potentially subtle feature and make it really clear how and where to use it.
Really, not too much to add. Good presentation. I think, given all the difficulties, the thing is, you had composure. Like you faced some difficulties, and I think people who don't speak all the time, you don't realize how hard it is after you've just sort of basically almost the close to a catastrophic meltdown. And just going to do this and soldier through it. So great job on doing that. Again, I would echo. You did attributions for your pictures. The fact that you did a demo, even despite some of the challenges, you could have easily just said, done your slides, which did the thing, but you actually really did a demo on top of that. So, kudos for that, but again, nice job.
All right. Thank you. This is not yours, right? I think, is Eric, is this yours? Okay. Just make sure we return devices so they don't just get picked up. Ooh, that's going to hurt. I'll take that from you, the microphone. Okay, judges, get out. The judges shall retire to the hallway where they will talk about the contestants. They will say nice things. They will say not as nice things. They will come back in here and they will announce the runner-up and then the winner. And it is, you've got time actually. It's only 4:20. So here's something I've actually just thought to myself with the technical difficulties. And I'm wondering why haven't speakers over the last 2 days simply walked up here and said, you know what, something just happened, doesn't matter. Here's my USB stick with everything I need, let's go. I mean,
Can I say I've been doing this for 25 years?
Yeah.
And every speaker, I've seen too many speakers save their own butt by going.
Here you go.
There you go.
Anytime I'm presenting at a place where I don't really control the equipment, and anything like that can happen. And what if my laptop doesn't work? Things like that. I have in my bag with me, I have a kit, and in that kit is a USB stick, and that USB stick has my slides. It's that simple. So, what if I can't connect? What if, for whatever reason, I just want to make sure I have that. But I've just happened to notice, so the speakers here today, did you have your stuff on the USB just in case? Eric did. You didn't, oh, you did. You went first, Javier. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so 2 did, but you didn't need it. So that's what I wanted to get at. I was wondering, because clear, I think all 4 of you should have done it. But 2 of you did, but you didn't need it, so that's why it didn't stand out. And I'm wondering about the 4 people from yesterday, if they were prepared as well. So that was my thing. So who here wants to judge the judges? This is my favorite part. What about the judges' feedback today? Did anything stand out to you?
Well, both today and yesterday, they described themselves as judgy, but they were all coachy.
Today they were coachy. Okay, interesting.
They were coachy yesterday.
Yeah, so they didn't do a lot of judging. So in my notes here, I actually found them to be much more complimentary today than they were yesterday. And I think that's a testament to the quality of the sessions today. They were very high quality, all 4. I think they have a real tough choice ahead of them. And it just stood out to me that a lot of the feedback was much more positive, and it wasn't, there were very few things for them to pick at. Anything else? Somebody else had their hand raised.
I would think coaching would be better in a situation like this.
Sure.
I didn't attend yesterday, but I did attend last year. So,
Yeah.
and I think it's helpful for a lot of people in the audience as well. We may not be the target for this particular competition, but if a lot of us are thinking about doing it in the future.
Absolutely. So being more coachy is a mix of coachy and judgy is what we really want. Sure. I think they all try to make sure they point out things that were good and not just be things that were bad. But yeah, more coachy, less judgy. Got it. Any other comments?
What was the pass violation? I didn't.
Who did that, sir? WTF. So here's the thing. It was something that got brought up. It's not necessarily that there was any sort of a violation by Eric whatsoever. The point was to be aware of what the rules are of when you're at a venue. So for example, at Summit here, we try to limit the amount of marketing material that would be present on stage. Now I've been to coming to Summit for about 15 years now. I've been to what were flat out just marketing sessions, but of course a vendor paid for that room. But you walk in, it has a title or whatever, and you have no idea. You walk in and go, whoa, I'm not interested in just listening to a vendor talk because I can go to the expo hall for that. So PASS has certain rules about how much you can do. So if you're a speaker at PASS, you get like 1 slide to say about you and your company. And that's it, because they want to limit, they want the focus to be on the community session itself. And I believe that's the best way to do it. So that was the point, was that you have to be, okay? All right. So the point was just being aware of what the rules were, because she started asking questions saying, so do you own that? Because you're kind of just spent time basically giving yourself 5 minutes of free advertising. Were you aware of that? Because he could have done it, and then at the end of it, somebody could just raise their hand and said, I got to be honest, seemed like it was more that it was about your tool or your product than it was about actually helpful, right? It was more like a sales pitch than anything else. And we can dive into the variances of all of that. But the point is really be aware of the venue and what the rules really are. Because you don't want to walk in and then have somebody say, whoa, you are way out of line with what you thought you could present here today. Because you probably want to be asked to come back. All right.
By the way, the speaker or the speaker idle are not provided with the full contract that have all the rules. All we're told is, here's your 5 minutes to go. So we don't have to have a full contract or anything to look at that lists out the rules, or have say no double spaces.
I'm sorry. There's a question to me here. Yes, sir?
So is that the same for SQL Saturdays as well?
I would say no, because they are locally run. So whatever the person wants to do for their event.
I've gone to sessions like you just said, at a time when it was clearly.
I have too. I've walked into a session, and it turned out to be a full-blown vendor session, and it struck me as odd that that was actually happening. So yes, but those are locally run.
I haven't seen them here, but
They're locally run. You do what you want. Yes, sir. Yeah, and that's exactly it. No, it wasn't really criticize. It was more of raising awareness of be aware of what the event rules were. That's it. All right, so let's get to the announcement here.
All right.
We go with runner-up and then winner.
Sure. So again, great job. Every year this gets harder because whether you've attended the past few years and seen how we can be, or just it's raising the bar on the level of speakers. Tough decision. We bantered a few things around. Runner-up today is Eric.
Yes.
And our winner for this second round is Dennis.
Dennis. And I will say to Javier and Ed, thank you, that you were both excellent. Like I said, today really seemed like a hard choice. So I don't know actually who seeds the contestants, but I'm thinking today was a really tough day to have all four of you at once.
Denny has